The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Let's get back to unrolling this conspiracy. How do we unroll it? How do you unroll it as an investigator?
Well, we continue in our investigation. Our investigation, and I just met with Sheriff Arpaio last week. I mean, we are going to take a different tack now, and some of the information we will release. Let me just preface this first. You know, it's very unusual to do what we're doing, to conduct an investigation and as best you can try to keep the public informed. But this isn't like any other investigation. This involves the highest office in the land. It involves a fraudulent record to the man who is the most powerful man in the world. And it affects every American. So Sheriff Arpaio feels we do have a duty on a level to keep the public informed as best we can.
Yeah. Now, it's not unusual for local law enforcement to refer something to the federal level if they find out that there's been some federal crime committed. Has that been done in this case, or has the sheriff attempted to refer it to a federal, law enforcement agency like the FBI?
Where Sheriff Arpaio is in his position now, in his dealings with the DOJ, the last place you would want to put this is under control of the DOJ. They'll just either keep it open forever, they'll close it out, they'll say whatever they want to say. He's not going to do that.
So let me just probe that a little bit deeper. Is it your belief that these federal law enforcement agencies are being unduly influenced, being corrupted?
Floyd, just take a look outside. I mean, we have stuff going on in this country that has never happened. The rule of law doesn't matter anymore. People that are easily prosecuted for certain offenses are let go, while other people are crucified for much lesser offenses. I mean, there's a problem in this country. There's a big problem in the legal system of this country.
So the sheriff doesn't want to refer it to a federal agency because they'll just ignore criminal activity.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So what Sheriff Arpaio really wants to do is he believes, as the Constitution calls for, that this is something that Congress needs to look at. Congress has the ability to unravel this.
Congress has the responsibility.
Yes, they do.
To unravel this.
Yes, they do.
And, this has been one of my great frustrations from early on, has been the absolute weakness on the part of the congressional leadership. They run like scared little girls from this issue rather than doing what is their constitutionally mandated job.
Yes, and we agree with you. And there should be no reason to run for it, although the feedback that I have gotten on numerous trips to Washington from certain congressional leaders is they fear the media. They fear the ridicule. They have fallen into the same trap that communist countries use to demonize, ridicule, ostracize your opposition. They are fearful of it. Now we have a handful that warrant, one in particular. But what we really believe needs to happen here, not only does Congress need to look into this, but there needs to be some mechanisms now put in place that something like this can never, ever, ever happen again. And I personally believe, not only with the President of the United States, it needs to be with every congressional member, every senatorial candidate. There needs to be a vetting of these people.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Hawaii. Hawaii in 1961 had just come into the United States. It had become a state in 59. And it had a time period in which it didn't really comport to the laws of a lot of different, it didn't have laws that were similar to those in the United States. And one of those was that literally if a baby was born at home, the parent could basically come in and get a birth certificate. And it was used as a loophole that by a lot of foreigners in order to get American birth certificates. Can you just talk to that a little bit?
Well, actually, it is. If the child was born at home, or actually the way Hawaii's laws were, they were compulsory in the sense that anyone can go in and just declare a birth event, and they were compelled to file a birth certificate. They had to make the certificate. So anybody can come in and claim, I know and I have knowledge of a birth of so-and-so at this location, and they could just come in and state the birth. They don't have to produce any documentation. They didn't have to produce a child. They could just go in and do it. And even today, by Hawaii's standard, Hawaii gives you the ability to even self-declare. Based on some evidence, what that evidence is subjective. It's not stated what you need, but you can go in and self-declare. Now you take this whole intricate web of Hawaii statutes that basically gets so ridiculous. They have what's called a foundling certificate, a foundling report, F-O-U-N-D-L-I-N-G. This thing is still in effect. In today's time, it is amazing to me that this is still in effect. If you are walking down the street in Hawaii and you come across a child, you can literally take custody of the child. If the child's parents are unknown, you could literally give that child a name, an approximate date of birth, and wherever you found that child is going to be the place of birth. And they will create a report and a certificate.
A birth certificate.
A certificate. And at the time that's filed, that remains open. It's unsealed. If at a later date the parents are discovered, that information will then be amended and changed. Now, in today's time with child trafficking and sex trafficking and everything that's going on, Hawaii has such a liberal policy on its books. I mean, Hawaii is back in the Stone Age. Hawaii statutes are ripe for fraud. The Inspector General in 2000, I believe it was, did a report on birth certificate fraud. Everything that he said in his documentation, this is the Inspector General of the United States, every problem he recognized, Hawaii statutes fulfill. They are a problem. And Sheriff Arpaio, we tried to bring this out in our press conference as far as we're concerned. Hawaii is a new border state because Hawaii gives you the ability to be anybody and get a certificate. And by Hawaii standard, the way they do it, they are bypassing immigration law, which is only the federal government has the ability to create a citizen. The federal government has an ability for you to be born outside the United States as an American citizen and still get a birth certificate, but it's from the state, it's from the federal government, not a state. Hawaii gives you the ability to confer citizenship because once you get that birth certificate, you can get any other document you want. You have a passport to the United States with that document. To make matters worse, during the course of this investigation, I came across some criminal activity that was uncovered by the federal government. And this occurred in New Jersey in a vital statistics office. And in the case over there, which this person was charged and ultimately pled guilty to, the director of that particular agency in New Jersey, vital statistics, a birth certificate house, if you will, literally was on the take and was being compensated by a group bringing in illegal aliens. This director of health would produce documentation and create birth files, birth records, and surreptitiously place them into her system. Once that was done, she received payment. Then the illegal alien trying to get a birth document from the United States would simply go down, produce the necessary documentation. The unsuspecting clerk would go find the record, everything appeared to be in order, and issue that person a valid United States birth certificate. It takes one person to do this. What people don't realize is that office alone in every state, they have the ability to create a complete identity out of thin air.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.